All right, guys. So we talked about doing this unpacking with my family for the movie Sinners. And so I'm going to be bringing all of my family on so that we can talk about the movie. And it has particularly great interest because one of my family members, a cousin of mine, participated in the production of this film. So I'm going to bring on my family and then we're going to unpack this movie and I'm going to help moderate that discussion. So there they all are. Say hello. Our wave. You guys are so
Hello.
loud. I don't hear anything.
Hello.
Okay, so
Hello, everyone.
All right, so we're going to talk about the movie Sinners and the person, let's see, which way are you? You're this way. So this is Conrad. Conrad Carriere worked on production of this film, and we're so proud of him, particularly because it's not only is it a great movie, but his contribution to this film, and we know how talented he is, and you can see that talent pour throughout the film, in addition to all the other contributors. But he really made us proud, and it was great to see his name roll in the credits at the end, and we stayed until the end to make sure we saw it. And I even videotaped it. I took screenshots. So we did all the things, and many of the other people in the family did the same thing. But the first thing I want to talk about, particularly in this movie, is the setting. And hopefully Conrad can give us can expound on the setting. So this movie takes place, if I'm not mistaken, in 1932, if I remember correctly. It's set in Clarksdale, Mississippi, which is in the Mississippi Delta. But was it filmed in that area or was it filmed in Louisiana, Conrad?
Production was filmed in Louisiana, New Orleans, Donaldsonville. Where was it? Was it Hammond? Hammond, Napoleonville. Yeah, Houma,
Okay.
all over.
So it was actually shot in Louisiana, but the film takes place in the Mississippi Delta. And I think it's important, particularly for the setting, to actually know what's going on in this period. So this is after Reconstruction, so post-emancipation and during the setting of Jim Crow. But what's also important is this also happened in the aftermath of the Great Depression. This is a time where women don't have a lot of freedoms. And so this is why I wanted to get into this as a teaser with Anicia, because Anicia was not happy with one of the characters who went rogue. And I want to explain why the setting of this story is very important to why she went rogue. But before we get there, just tell us about, Conrad, if you can tell us about the scenery. It was shot so beautifully. And it really did showcase Louisiana, particularly in what we would call a country. We're all from New Orleans, so that's country to us. But can you talk about what it was like, just looking at the visuals of how this film was shot over the course of production?
So we shot on IMAX, 70 millimeter and 60 and Panavision 65. First time working on a feature film with film in general, let alone IMAX. But just being it was an interesting experience. Being in the visual effects department and trying to navigate around that medium, as far as like trying to as far as the work pipeline for my department in post-production. It was a lot of long days because you can't really shoot that long on film. And then the way we shot things only increased the time frame with having to put Michael as a twin. It was a lot of hard work, but at the end of the day, we all managed to get the job done and make a beautiful movie.
I'm glad you brought up shooting him as a twin, because I think when we think about obviously this has been done before, where one actor plays twins, so the actor is playing both roles. We've seen that in movies before, But I think previously you kind of see where there's like an invisible line in the middle where either actor can't cross that line because then you sort of give it away. And so, but I think for this one, it's I don't even know how you guys did it because it is so seamless the way those two characters interact with one another, even though they're the same actor playing the role. And you immediately, like, there at no point in time that I was like, oh, that's Michael B. Jordan. Oh, that's Michael B. Jordan too. He really did play that role as if it was two different characters. And I'm just wondering how, in addition to his talent, from a VR, from a post production perspective and animation and graphics, and how did you all create that? Was that little halo around him? Was that part of it?
Yeah, so our Halo that Michael spoke about in one of his interviews was used for AI. Let me not say AI. It was uh, generated face replacement. Um, but we did very little of that. Our vendor, what was it? Rising Sun. They did a very good job at incorporating the face replacements in a lot of the shots, especially in the brother fight scene at the end.
Mm-hmm.
They did an incredible job. Also, um, Storm Studios. They did the what is it? The twin shot at the very beginning, the opening twin shot with the cigarette transfer. Incredible shot, which is very very difficult to do as far as coming in contact with each other. Um,
I bet.
yeah, we had an incredible team to come together and and accomplish that. But it, I have to give Michael his props because he absolutely killed it as far as the performance and distinguishing the twins from each other.
So in the sharing of the cigarette, I am so glad you. I promise you all, I did not send him questions beforehand because I was going to ask about the passing of the cigarette, but I'm going to direct it to your daddy. And the reason why I'm going to direct it to your dad is because I think uh, it's not very common to see black men on screen having intimate and not sexually intimate scenes, but just intimate relationship scenes that don't lead to some sort of sexual encounter later. And so, like, to men sharing a cigarette is just not something that we're accustomed to seeing currently. Maybe that's how y'all did it in the old days when y'all used to pass cigarettes, or maybe y'all puff puff pass now. I don't do that, but I don't judge. I'm just wondering what you thought of men sharing a cigarette in a film. What were your thoughts on that?
Conrad Senior.
I'm sorry, I was on mute, but truthfully, I didn't think about it as anything different than an experience. Uh, from my understanding, twins are almost, they complete each other. And so, how could the sharing of a cigarette be considered anything different than the completion of a sentence? The relationship, community, friendship, all that, it's no different. That relationship is as strong as any other in the world. So I didn't think anything outside of the normal sharing of a cigarette with somebody close.
Okay. Anybody else have any contributions to that?
Well, I didn't think nothing of it, but I know people do that share cigarettes called it shorts. And that's when you smoke half of the cigarette. I know that's something that they do in jail too. That you smoke half of the cigarette and then give somebody the other half, and they call it a short. So
Oh, I didn't know
that's
that.
something that has been done within the black community before. That so I didn't think nothing of it when I seen it on screen.
Hmm.
During the
Well,
years, excuse me, during the years that this was supposedly filmed, everything was so expensive. There was not unusual for individuals to share cigarettes. Take a puff, man, because they couldn't afford to buy packs of cigarettes sometimes.
mm, I hadn't thought about it that way, but I was like, these people got the twins are sort of viewed, I would think, at least by the people that in Clarksdale, right? In Clarksdale, they aren't they viewed as having money compared to everybody else around? They not viewed as
That's
having
the
money?
impression
I
that I
thought they
got.
had money. Was the
Based on
goal?
dress,
I mean,
based on based on car, I guess they would have been seen as somebody who was more affluent.
And the other thing I wanted to mention is that this is also during a time of prohibition. And so I don't necessarily remember. Maybe it was actively mentioned, but like Jim Crow wasn't mentioned, Great Depression wasn't mentioned, prohibition wasn't mentioned, which is when alcohol was illegal. But what triggered it for me was when he drank the bottle in front of well, what was Delroy Lindo's character's name? Do y'all remember?
Delta Slim.
Delta Slim. Yeah. So when Delta Slim seemed like really interested in having whatever Smoke was drinking, I was like, oh, this is because alcohol is illegal during this time. So they were really like doing a lot of illegal stuff at this time. He could have got all of. I'm just thinking all of the people that could have. More people could have died as a result of what they were doing. Um, but
well, I figured they were some hard hitters because they worked for Al Capone when they was in Chicago, and I figured they had jacked some people while out there and brought him down.
oh, see, I didn't even get that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's exactly what happened in the sequence where Stack and Mary are talking on the stairs. She makes a comment in regards to the Irish beer and the Italian wine, and that they robbed both sides and escaped back, and how long is it going to take by the time that they realize who stole from them?
Mm, okay. So the Al Capone was an inference, though. They didn't specifically involved in that.
No, it was stated.
Oh, it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're in the market sequence with the thief robbing the back of the truck. There's also
Mm-hmm.
a point where he makes a comment about their time, why why he was robbing the truck and why the little girl was lying, because he thought they were in Chicago still working for Capone.
Okay. So what do y'all think about the building of community that was established? I like um that sequence with the girl, and I don't know what her character name, maybe it was just girl, the one that he asked to watch his car. And then he also teaches her, the art of negotiating. And I just thought that was very interesting. And then there's a bunch of spoilers in here, because so if you haven't seen it, there's spoilers. I forgot to mention that. Um, but he also, when there are two people who are caught robbing him, it's Smoke, right? The one who does the pow pow.
Yes.
Okay, Smoke is the one that's gangster. Stack is the one that's got the heart. At least I think. So they're, even though they're twins, they're kind of like yin and yang. But I still think that Smoke has he has like he wants to teach them a lesson, but at the end of the day, he's like, here's the money to go and fix them as well. But they just need to know that they can't be doing what they're doing, because the consequences could be much graver if they're caught stealing from someone who's not like us. So I got to teach them a lesson. Did anybody find that interesting about how he was asked, he caused the harm, but then on the back end wanted to make sure that they were taken care of?
I thought it was very interesting because it honestly says a lot about communities and still communities to this day that some people have to leave and do some things that's not always legal in order to come back to help the community. So that's my take on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
That's it. Okay, so talk about the Chinese store owners. I have thoughts on the Chinese store
If
owners, but I
wait,
want to know, what do you all think about the Chinese store owners? Because they had two stores.
Bern,
Hmm. I so
if
I
we can
think
go
it's
if we can
interesting
go
that they
back to
actually
that.
represent.
I
Wait, say
thought
that
they
again?
made that very clear how much community the Asian people had as well, and how they
Mm-hmm.
worked partnership side by side with Black folks to do business for the community. I think it's kind of still like that till this day. Um, but yeah, that's it.
Well, I
What you
just
say,
thought it was
Conrad?
interesting that they decided to represent the Asian community as in helping service Black people with grocery stores and stuff when we couldn't get those things in that time frame because because of segregation and Jim Crow. That's what I thought was interesting about having that represented in the film that I've never seen before personally.
And really and truly, during those days, they had, as you don't remember, no, there were Italians living in the Black communities, and they had grocery stores and little shops, and you could always go to them, and they would have books that they would allow you to get food or groceries or clothing and so forth, and you would pay whenever you got paid. So that existed in Black communities then,
Mm-hmm.
and not with only the Asians, but also with the Italians.
Okay. Now, so we've talked about Smoke and Stack. We've talked about the Asian family. We've briefly mentioned Delroy and Delta Slim. We'll get back to him. Sammy, the preacher's kid. I'm wondering. My thoughts about Sammy was: is he a time traveler? I'm not really sure why he needed to be in this film. And I don't know if I missed the point of him being in this film because he's the protagonist. He's sort of like the main character, but I'm like, what did he do besides survive the apocalypse?
He showed the symbolism of music and how
Well,
easily
he
the music is tainted with devilish spirits and stuff like that. So I think, as my brother Ethan mentioned before, him being in the movie showed his dedication to music and what he loved, and how no evil was able to test and really kind of like. But that's not true either, because he was tested and he did do some sinner type stuff, because he did. Yeah, I'm gonna be quiet.
I feel like I feel like the point
Because
of him in the
everybody
movie,
in the
which
movie
was
was sinners.
actually
Everybody did some type of sinning. Nobody was innocent at all. So when you talk about the young boy Sammy, like, I know he played his part with the music, but he was also a sinner with regards to you know, being with a married woman. So
so so
yeah.
I agree with that, but I think Sammy's part was more of how music connects generations. At least for his big
That
climactic
too.
scene where he starts playing music, where it connects generations through ages, no matter who you are, no matter what culture you are. It always has a binding between human nature. Is just like music binds us all. We have music throughout the entire world because they showed Asian, they showed Creole, they showed African, they showed all types of different cultures in that scene, not just uh, from Africa.
Mm.
So I think that was his like crux into reaching back into our ancestry and also into our future and binding us all together in music, which is kind of spoilers, leads us into the next scene where he's seen by evil and wanting that power to be able to traverse or last forever within music.
Here's what I
I think
thought. I
I
thought
like
that
oh,
he
that,
was
Gary.
a I thought he was a time traveler, and that the evil um needed like his body as a vessel in order to time travel, whether that be go backwards in time or go forwards in time. And maybe like his family, he comes from a family of time travelers, because it seems like his dad, the preacher, knew that he sort of tried to warn him about what was going to happen. And so I thought maybe his dad is a time traveler. He has an unrecognized talent of being a time traveler, and that this particular evil force needs a vessel that can travel time, particularly because the evil force is immortal. Um, that's what I thought it was, but maybe I was thinking too much. What you think,
Yeah,
Mike?
Burnell, I think you were thinking too much. I'm not really sure what movie you saw. Uh, uh, I like what Garrett said, but I think there's a deeper, more profound um, meaning in the character of Sammy, and I think Sammy represents the African American. How should I say this? Uh, love of the Bible and how we deem everything that's against the Bible or perceived against the Bible to be of sin. And you see this young man that's trying to do something that he loves in a story, but it's deemed, demonic. And it just so happens that his music, while it's a gateway to express his creativity and freedom, it just so happens that this one particular night, his music actually introduces something demonic. And
And
I think the question that the movie leaves you with a question, and the question is, and everybody can, you can ask yourself this and what you think, but I think the question is, was his music truly demonic, or was it just a coincidence that his music attracted something, of the night, something attracted something supernatural? And
Mm,
that's I think that's what the movie leaves a bunch of questions about.
okay.
so I do want to also clarify for Burnell. Sorry, the the reason the main antagonist wanted Sammy was because with his abilities of music and transcending all cultures from the past and the future, he wanted to see his brethren, as he stated in the movie, from his past that are no longer here with him, because he was trying to use that power to see his family that he no longer had.
Hmm. Okay. All right. So we've addressed Sammy. Let's address. I want to go to our fellow resident octoroon, my mama, to talk. And I'm just kidding. I want to know your thoughts on the octoroon character, the 1/8 black, who was basically, for all practical purposes, passing for white. What do you think about her role in this film? Not as an actor, her character.
Okay, tell me who was that?
Ah!
Oh,
Uh,
Mary, the only white passing lady. Well, she was white, but
Oh, okay. You talking about the lady in the very beginning who let
I'm
the
talking
devil in?
about Stacks old lady.
Oh, okay. What about? I'm sorry, I lost the question trying to think of who who it
Exactly,
was.
exactly. What about her? The one who brings in, invites the evil into the space. Were you surprised that that was the character that did it?
No,
Why
it
not?
wasn't just because she, I guess, because the devil was able to attract or find the weakness of every person that they went after. It just stood to reason. She was interested in money. She went out there for money. So as soon as she went out there, she it was easy to get her to buy in, I guess you could say, to what was going on. And that was it. It's typical.
Mm-hmm. Did And I want to know all of you all thoughts on the greater context of integration. And so what happens, because Martin Luther King says he fought for integration, but he pondered about whether or not he had integrated black people into a burning house. And so that made me think, what happens when you have safety and community, and with black people being an open people who are very welcoming, what happens when you are so welcoming that when a stranger walks in, the danger that you could be welcoming into your already safe environment?
Oh, that happens all the time. I'm sure that everybody on this timeline, everybody on this call got a story, way more than just one. Because I mean, I feel like our family was based on being open and being community and loving and caring and opening arms, and we've all been burnt by people we personally know. And I'm gonna leave that right there.
Well, I think integration played a dual role because regardless to what race you're in, regardless to what your nationality, whatever, you have to make determinations about individuals because there are people who will come into your life for varied reasons. And it's up to you as an individual and for those persons that you associate with and those people who you bring into your family or into your environment as to who and what they are. People come for a multitude of reasons, for financial reasons, for religious reasons, for associations, for various type pardon me, purposes in their life. Does it fit what you expect and or what you need or what they need out of a relationship? And that's on an individual basis, whether they're black, white, grizzly, gray.
This movie reminded me of Elvis, because Elvis was in, Elvis grew up in, I think he actually grew up in Mississippi. He grew up in Tupelo, Mississippi.
Tupelo,
And
Tupelo.
Elvis Presley grew up in Tupelo, Mississippi, and grew up in a poor black area in the Delta. And he went and, he grew up next to a black church and attended the black church and started stealing all the moves and stuff like that. And that's kind of what the main character was trying to do. He wanted to come up in the club with all the black folks and be amongst the black people and still the gifts they had in a way. So kind of to like what you were saying about
Which character are
the
you referring to?
I'm referring to the main villain, Remick.
Okay, I
Remick
got
Remick is like that Elvis character that wants to come into the black area and steal the gifts of the black people that he's around. In particular, specifically the character of Sammy, like Garrett was saying, you know, his main drive was to get Sammy so he could be able to see, because apparently, the part, I don't know if you understood it, Burnell, but apparently the vampires had some kind of mind hive thing with them. They could, if you turned someone to a vampire, you could see their memories. You could see everything they feel in their memories. They feel, everything. And I think that's, the movie implies that that was the reason he wanted Sammy, because he wanted to be able to access his gifts from music to be able to see his family. So he wanted to go in there and turn Sammy into a vampire to steal those gifts. And that's kind of, in a way, that's kind of an allegory for white people stealing black gifts all the time. They come into our spaces, they see our stuff, and they steal them, and then they get popular for it. They get popular for it when we the ones. And when you relate it to music, it's the same stuff. Rock and roll started from, came from black people. It came from the blues. But look what happened. White people started taking it and making it popular. Now, a lot of people forget that rock and roll was a black genre. So there's a lot of allegories in this film that we could take from.
I wanna extend a point on that, or an opinion. I don't necessarily think with Remick it was more so a black or white thing, because he felt it was more of a cultural thing, because Remick was Irish, So he felt a connection because of what happened to his land was stolen.
Did we lose him?
Sammy are doing the
Sound went off.
Conrad, we lost you for a little bit. Back up.
okay. If you look at the river sequence where Remick is talking to Sammy outside, and they're both doing the Our Father. Remick does that with him, and he tells Sammy that him that prayer told him the same thing before they took his land. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a white or black thing. I think it's more of a cultural thing, and that the same he somewhat saw himself in a relation with the black people that were in the juke that night, and tried to relate to them to some aspect. But yeah, he was trying to use Sammy um, to connect with the ancestors that he had lost during that same point in time from colonialism or what have you.
See, and I thought, see, what I was thinking was because if you notice, his accent went to an Irish accent, whereas he wasn't speaking in an Irish accent the whole time. And what I was thinking was that was representation of how when the Irish first immigrated here, they were sort of seen as the dregs of society, but they traded they traded that status for whiteness. And so it was,
Well,
I thought that
even
he was trying to, I thought maybe that Ryan Coogler was trying to demonstrate how the nation will always grant more and more people into whiteness, and that was sort of manifested in the midst of them praying. He was sort of letting us know that he grandfathered himself into whiteness. That's what I got from that. Is that not what you got from that? Nobody got that from that? Oh, did y'all know Irish
well,
people were like the?
so so Irish people have been discriminated against by even the English before they even came to America. But I do agree with like the chameleonism of like just being elevated above black people and going into whites. But they've been, I think that more that relation was more of like they were treated as the slaves in England. And so that was what the kinship that Conrad was talking about, that he was trying to see in Sammy, the kinship with black folks, because Irish, even when they came here, were pretty much the slaves of the white people, or in back in Ireland, they were slaves of English people.
Mm-hmm.
To Garrett's point and Conrad's point, you're right. It wasn't just the immigration you're talking about, Burnell, but you actually, and you'll hear from white people even today, Irish American people today, they'll say, well, yeah, you guys always talk about how you guys were slaves and stuff like that, but we were slaves too. And they try to use that to compare their situation with ours. But the Irish were also suffered indentured servitude around the same time the Africans were in indentured servitude as well. It just so happened that there were more of us than it was them. Actually, I think the problem with the Irish were they were starting to get paid, even though it wasn't that much, and we weren't getting shit. So, excuse my language. So, that was part of the problem. So you'll hear even today, Irish Americans making that claim. Why should I care about your struggle when my people was also enslaved by the white man as well? And I think that's where that came from.
But
Well,
when you think of,
I resent when I hear anyone who are very fair of skin with nice, I say, slick hair or nice hair, talk about they can identify with us because they can at any time be white. And many of them who have come here in in those days, they changed and they started putting Caucasian on applications for jobs and everything else so that they could get the better qualified jobs and the better paying jobs. So I resent that.
hmm,
Okay, so I would ask, what relation or what information do we take away from the fact that there was an Irish led organization, let's just say led by the lead antagonist of the the vampires, but they did not discriminate on who they came to, right? Who they took in
Yeah.
and who they went out. But in addition, if you saw that in the dance scene, the whole organization, no matter what the color, what the class, what the status, they all had led to be doing the Irish jig. They were singing Irish folk songs. They were doing the jig. So, what does that say about indoctrination? What does that say about assimilation? What does that say about the loss of your individuality when you allow certain characteristics of outside influences into your environment?
And isn't that the argument today? And I think that's why people, especially people in the Black community, they argue on whether it was the right thing to do to integrate, because one of the main arguments is that integration has made Black people try to chase whiteness instead of being our own and doing our own thing. And it's always this uphill battle that we never win because we're constantly trying to chase what they are. Is why you see rappers in music, they flash the money, they flash the cars. They're trying to show that they're close to whiteness. And it's never wanting to be, black. It's never for the promotion of actually being of being a black person or being of African American. So I think
Well,
that plays into it too.
I would ask the question though, is it the pursuit of whiteness or is it the pursuit of what whiteness has found easy to achieve? Power and wealth.
Option B.
So I don't know if individuals pursue trying to be white, but it's been so much easier in some instances for white Americans to achieve success, to get power, that and from a respect standpoint, it seems to be automatically given when those things are attained. So the pursuit of those three things, respect, power, and money, makes you do some of the things that will allow you to get closer to that end goal. And most of the time, that involves being somehow involved in the white community, white business, some form of fashion. We're growing at this point, and as a part of this, ownership is at the center of that. And as we hear conversations about more and more about the deep particular movie, you're seeing where ownership and finance and wealth and power are of a concern of the industry, because that he's potentially encroaching upon the status quo.
True, and he's
Hmm.
no, and and
Yep.
and look who has to give that to him, the white man.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yes.
So
Well,
All
I
right,
never
Bird.
thought of it. I never thought of it in
Get
that way. What I thought of it, and I guess since we brought up the long one shot dance sequence, my first question is
Yes.
that was beautifully shot. Number one,
It
I don't
really
know
was.
how in the world you all managed to do that, Conrad. But I had never, number one, I never seen anything like that. And in this day and age, it's very hard to be surprising for you to say, "Wow, I have actually never seen anything like this in film." And so I really do appreciate being exposed to that. So besides it obviously being beautifully shot and the sequence and all the different contributions from the different not only cultures but different um, time frames and time periods. I just was today years old when I found out they was playing an Irish song. I was just so captivated by the visuals that I actually wasn't even paying attention that it was an Irish song that was playing while that sequence was taking place. So for me, that now gives me a little bit more clarity about from what I would take from that is that at a certain point, uh, many different cultures found community in one another, and white supremacy, which I actually think is the villain of the show, not the vampires, not Remy. I think white supremacy is the actual villain, but how white supremacy will at all times try to either siphon off or destroy a happy home.
So to touch on that is even after what we thought, even after the climax of the movie of the vampires all dying, and they come to find out right before that at the end of the day they planned on killing everyone in that building anyway. At at the very start of since the start of the movie, they had the setup where the clan was planning on coming in and having a giant kill shelter, regardless of if the vampire showed up.
Yeah,
Well,
that's why I'm glad he
I
came out
thought
there
it
the way he
just
did.
Conrad, you on mute.
I thought
Sorry. I just said that was going to be a robbery, not in a standard sense, but they were paid an extraordinary amount of money for the building, and then they were going to eliminate those who paid the money and take the building back over. And apparently, that was a replication, something that was done multiple times, or that was a place where they had done some damage or some other deeds previously, because that's why there was blood and all the other things on the floor when they were evaluating the property initially.
hmm
It was almost like a kill center or somewhere where they used to harm individuals, and there was blood and whatever on the ground, on the floorboards.
Okay, well, that seems very violent. But this is, I mean, there is violence in this, but what I do like
Yes.
about it is that it's not what we would call black trauma porn, meaning like sort of using. Does everybody know what black trauma porn is? When I use that phrase,
Django, or not
Django or 12 Years a Slave
12 Years a
or
Slave, yeah.
Amistad or the things that sort of they don't really glorify it, but sort of using traumatic images of black historical trauma in order to sell a movie. So I like that this movie did not have a white savior. I like that. I like that it was not violent in terms of trauma porn on the backs of black people. I did like that because there's one movie that I cannot watch unless I want to go on a spree, and that is Rosewood. See, Rosewood make me want. See, I'm just thinking about the movie and I'm getting upset. But Rosewood is a movie that
Why
makes
did
me.
I know you was gonna say that?
Which part?
The whole damn movie.
That's a movie that make you want to go do something to some people. So I can't watch it. Not I've watched it twice and I didn't like the way I felt afterwards. I felt violent,
What?
so I can't
Right.
watch it. So I can't watch it. But this movie I could go watch. I could watch it several times. So what?
I'd like to see it again.
I'm going to watch it again in IMAX.
So do you all? What do you all think about movies that number one aren't centered around a white savior and not centered around slave beatings and whippings and hangings and stuff like that, but still touching on subjects of that subject matter, but not creating the images that we're used to seeing in relationship to these topics.
I thought it
Look,
was
there was so
awesome.
much symbolism. There was so much
Hmm.
symbolism in this movie that I know I really need to see it again. and I wish it had cliff notes so that I really wish it had cliff notes so that I could get the real, so I could get the meaning, because I definitely know there was a lot of symbolism in the movie that just went
So
over my head, because I didn't even realize until the end, or when it was explained about you had to invite the devil in. Didn't know that.
You didn't know you
yeah,
had to invite the devil in?
I did not know that. I didn't get it
Vampires,
at
right?
first.
No.
Yeah, vampires, they always have, but it's the symbolism of that is that evil always is sort of invited in.
Invited in.
hmm
Right. That's what I'm saying. All of the symbolism was like I said, I wish I had cliff notes.
Hmm.
Even if you have the best intentions, it can still invite it in.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and but this is kind of a question for Conrad, since you worked at the movie and stuff like that. I saw some similarities. Like, I mean, I know they all work together, um, but I felt that a few of the scenes, which my mom got me thinking about, was very familiar to Chadwick Boseman's last movie. Um, what was it? It was Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. There were
Hmm.
some scenes in the movie that were very similar uh, in how they presented the characters and joyful, gleeful, and then like somewhat somber in their music renditions. Was that the intent, or do you not know? Like, what was the thought behind those types of that attitude or that uh, atmosphere?
Yeah, I wouldn't have the answer for that one.
That's what I thought. I was like, I just figured I'd ask.
Yeah, I wouldn't have the answer for that one.
Uncle
That's a
Lewis is
writer
on.
question.
Uncle Lewis said, "So since I have no clue how to get on this video, even though that's not my objective, okay, we know you want to be on here. We know it's okay. We know you want to be part of us. We know we the stuff." Anyway, he says, should we prep for a possible Sinners 2? I'm sure there's an NDA
Yes,
attached to that, Conrad.
hopefully.
Yes, they
Yes.
announced it.
Burn,
Not
burn. You
if
asked
so, I don't
about
know
what?
about it.
Oh, go ahead,
You don't know anything
No,
burn.
about
just
that?
if if there is, I don't know nothing about it.
Okay,
Mm.
burn. You were asking about how we feel about a movie that doesn't have that porn or whatever in it. I would say it was refreshing. One, two, but it just lets you know what is possible when movies are not developed by outside trying to tell the story of potentially our stories, right? This was a different view of a minority telling his version of the history of his family to a certain extent and where that took him in review. So I believe that it shows us what's possible when there's diversity or more diversity in development, and also that the man's a genius, and so we have to aspire, or those who are in the industry have to aspire to exceed his efforts. That's it. And we should expect much more of this type thing going on in the future.
I'll
Definitely.
say one of the biggest things for a black filmmaker in the film industry is everyone expects you to make some kind of dramatic film. They don't take you seriously if you make if you making something that involves action, science fiction, or the supernatural. They want you to make some kind of drama film. And usually, when you see a lot of beginning filmmakers, they're usually making some kind of black trauma movie. Some ancestral rape. Dad never came back home. poor and broke, white man did this to me, and it's always these type of stories that for some reason has to get you the recognition that you need to make the movies that you want to make. And this was refreshing to see, even though Ryan Coogler, his first major film was technically a black trauma film in Fruitvale Station. That was something that was kind of close to home for him, because from where he's from Oakland, and that was a big, event that happened in his life that he experienced. Being that event happened in his hometown, but still, it is refreshing to see him actually create an original and write an original project, and tell it which involves so much elements and so many other genres and so much. It really is a think piece. It really is a think piece, because like, even though we're talking about this now, we all of us have all kind of different takes on it, and when you can have multiple takes about a film, that shows that you're a damn good writer. That
Mhm.
Yes.
shows that shows that you're critically thinking, and that you believe your audience isn't stupid. So you're not just giving them finger. I mean, just easy to take, easy movie to make. And for him to make a critical piece where it involves so much of our story as African Americans, and at the same time, may have us fall in love with the characters, because this movie is a slow burn. If you think about it, it's one half of it we're getting to learn these characters. We getting to learn these characters. We fall in
Yes.
love with these characters. What I'm saying, we actually developing a relationship with the characters. And the main meat of it only happens in the second half of the film. So for
Mm.
us, and we live in a time where people don't want to sit through movies like that. So for everybody to come out and show their support and sit through a 2 hour plus movie, and a 2 hour plus movie, and actually enjoy it and be entertained by his message and the action and horror and stuff. Man, all you can give is kudos to Ryan Coogler, and I can't wait to see what he does with it.
I 100% agree with that, because I was sitting through this movie and I'm like, what is this movie about? I didn't see a trailer. I literally went to see this movie because y'all said that Conrad was involved in it, and obviously I wanted to go and show support, and I was so jealous that you all went to see it all together and I couldn't be there. But I had no idea what this movie was
Oh,
about. I never knew. I hadn't seen a trailer. I hadn't read a review. I hadn't really talked to Conrad about it. So I had no idea. So then I'm like, wow, I'm like, okay, all right. This is all, I mean, this is good. This is all nice and dandy. They get to the bar, they enjoying themselves. I'm like, okay. This is what this is all about. Okay. So it wasn't until the second half that I felt like I had not seen a movie like this before. But after I saw the entire movie, I realized I had never seen a movie like the first half before either. And so I think it took me personally to get to the end to realize that the entire movie is not something that I'd ever seen before. But for my personality, and I got ADHD, I was just like, all right, let's get to what's going to happen here, because I know the setup, everything, I feel like everything's being set up, something's about to drop. And then it all dropped when that man was in what would look like a desert, running to that house. Did you all make the connection of how he saw the Klan uniform and knew he could get into that house by appealing to their to what he thought, would allow him to let them in? Did y'all pick up on that?
No, I didn't think of it in that manner. I really didn't. I was just wondering. I noticed the burning, right? When he was running, he was actually burning because he was outside in the daylight. But I didn't really, quote unquote, pick that up until he had eaten the man in the bedroom.
Oh, I knew immediately. I knew immediately because I watch a lot of vampire stuff. So I immediately looked. I said, Ashton, that's a vampire. I said, he's smoking. I knew he was a vampire. And then when he stopped on the porch, and did you also notice the three vultures flying above the house? And I said,
Yes.
oh,
Anita.
vultures, they eat dead carcasses. I was like, that's symbolism that them people in that house is dead now.
Right.
Is that true,
They were
Conrad?
also
It's funny.
flying
It,
all over the juke joint too.
They were?
In
Oh,
one
I
of
didn't
the
even see
scenes.
that.
Some
Hmm.
of them, yes. Yes.
it's funny that you mentioned the vultures because if whoever goes to look at the movie again, they're not just in that one scene.
Seen.
If I'm
No.
correct, yeah,
Mm-mm.
they're not
So
just at that at the barn house.
No.
Marla wanted me to ask y'all, what did y'all think about the Indians that were trying to come catch the vampire?
Well, I think that
That was one of my favorite parts.
The
I
When
think
the
Indian.
that
Indians
because
came and they
go ahead.
tried to warn them. Go ahead. Just when the Indians came and they tried to warn them, right? Uh-huh. And it was like they didn't pay attention to them.
Hmm.
Mm-mm.
So, all right, you deal with them yourself. We tried to warn you. They said, all right, well, you didn't want to listen to me. All right, I'm out, baby. I gotta go. All right, that's it. I
They were
warned you.
like,
That's it.
it's about to, that sun's about to set. I'm out. We tried to tell you, but I think that the connection. I was thinking that because indigenous people are very connected, to spirituality, they're grounded in the earth and the planet and nature. I thought that it was fitting that they would be the ones that had the awareness of the evil force that was in the area. I don't think that was by accident. I don't think that it was just some random Indians sitting around coming to warn them. I think that connection was because of the indigenous community's a close association with spirituality and
You're
what.
gonna break
I
the
don't. I mean, I'm just
computer.
gonna say witchcraft because I don't can't think of another word. I know it ain't witchcraft. Don't come for me, internet. Um, I'm just using that term because I can't think of something. I can't think of whatever they call their spiritual practices.
I was
Marla
But
said
waiting.
it
I
reminded
was
him
waiting
of
for that.
Twilight.
I was waiting. Go ahead. I was saying that I was because they were trying to warn them and they knew. I thought that the Indians or the tribes or whatever would have another role in the film, and you never saw them anymore.
Yeah, I think there's a like Burnell was saying, Indians, Native Americans, they have all kind of like spiritual stories and they're very spiritual people. And I would like to think that maybe that's a sign that the vampires are maybe native to America and maybe there's some kind of, they appear to be some kind of demon hunters or vampire hunters maybe, and maybe the threat is something native and maybe that's their thing possibly. But I think Ryan definitely left the door open to really do something with that right there because that was interesting.
Well, I think in
Maybe.
Sinners #2 we should have that in the script.
I mean, I think that every character could have their own movie leading up to that night. That's just how brilliant this film is. And what I really want to know is we haven't talked about her is Mary. No, we did
Oh,
talk about Mary. We didn't talk about um,
Annie.
Stack's
Annie,
girlfriend.
Annie,
I
Yes.
liked
Stack
her.
is with Mary,
yeah, but she
Smoke is
wasn't
with
on her
Annie.
stuff.
I loved her. She's probably my favorite character in in the movie. Um, because she's not loud. She seems to be the most grounded of all the characters, the one who looks like she has been through some things, but those things have changed her for the better and not made her, jaded or what is it when you or resentful. And so I think that I could watch a whole movie about her to figure out how she got to where she is. I'm wondering because you mentioned Jeremy, you mentioned about indigenous people's connection to spirituality, and I'm wondering because in certain ways, West African tribes are also very connected to spirituality and to herbal medicine and to, whatever, souls of the heart or whatever you want to call it, and how when we are here, we sort of, as Christians, we sort of view that as devil's talk. Or Precious is trying to come in. What is it like? What is it? Devil, sort of like devil stuff, or you messing around with that, you're gonna invite spirits in. And so I'm just wondering what y'all think about that, because I felt as though white supremacy sort of has taken black people away from their ancestral roots when it comes to spirituality, and have sort of taken us away from the connectedness of what it means to be aware of your surroundings. Any thoughts on that? I'm going to try and add more people. You all talk about that.
I think every being on this earth has some type of connection to a higher power. Now, however you use that connection or tap into that connection or not, that's on every individual's purpose and drive and journey here on earth. But I will say, to be a spiritually aligned and person like she was, you have to be very in tune with not only the good spirits, but also those that are not good as well.
Yeah, and she just.
And I think, why is she disappointed? Love
Alicia, if you're
how
talking,
there was different loves. Huh?
I said we couldn't hear you.
We lost you for a while.
Oh, I was saying I loved how the movie showcased different types of love in the black community. Some was good, some wasn't, but I really loved her character. They seemed like they had a very strong connection that was felt far away, and when they came back, it was like distance was never an issue. And the little thing that she gave him to protect him, I just loved that. I felt like it showcased what I feel like a lot of black women need to see, for the black man and for the black relationship.
I
That's it.
I like Annie. I like Annie because I believe the film implies that she's from Louisiana. I think there's a scene when when Smoke goes into the shack and he's telling her, I'm tired of you, all this Louisiana voodoo stuff or whatever. And I think that's what he's kind of implying, that she practices voodoo or hoodoo. And so we got a Louisiana connection, Annie, possibly. And but I like the connection there because uh, hoodoo and voodoo, they're a combination of the Catholic faith, but the Catholic faith and West African religions. So there's always a spirituality that Africans were able to hold on even through slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And to see that, you know the movie implies that it's real because Smoke has been able to survive all this time. And there's several scenes we see where he's about to get bit, but something in his little voodoo bag is able to fend it off, like he has some kind of invisible shield. So we do get to see actually a true representation of Annie's magic or voodoo actually working. And you can argue that maybe faith has a role. Faith and spirituality definitely has a role to play in the film, just from that relationship right there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that that's important because we have convinced ourselves that we as Catholics, and I don't know who's, not all of us are Catholic, but as Catholics, we have convinced ourselves that we drink in blood every Sunday, which there's a connection because vampires drink blood. So, and I'm like, but we want to accuse other people of having crazy rituals when we go into church every Sunday and convince ourselves that we drink in somebody's blood that's been dead for 2,000 years, but we drinking his blood. And so I think for me, it was just like everything at a certain aspect is ritualistic. It's just that some things are viewed as outside of the mainstream and other things are viewed as acceptable, when at the end of the day, it's all ritualistic practices that help get us through the day spiritually. Um, and so I'm wondering what y'all thought about that.
I totally agree with that, with what you
Garrett, did I
said.
cut you off?
Young in comparison, though.
Say that
Like
again,
all
Garrett.
those, like I was saying, like voodoo and Celtic mythology or Norse mythology, all of these different like more holistic mythologies and like herbalism and all these other things are much older than Christianity and Catholicism, and they've done a very good job at eliminating those cultures and those people, those beliefs, with new rituals, new things throughout the entire world, not just with us. And it's a very big issue uh, for us because it pretty much is ingrained in our identity and how we see the world. And when our ancestors came over from Africa, all of those things that they brought over were integrated within our culture, within our mannerisms, within who we are as people. And when that got eliminated because it was demonic or deemed less than, we lost a bit of who we are as a people, and we're slowly trying to regain it back. This presidency aside, um, and it's a thing that I like to see in movies represented in a way that's not just like the crazy lady in the corner, because it's something that we could identify with, even though we don't fully understand it, since we are a part of that generation that are Catholics, Christians, Baptists, and all of the other denominations of Christianity. But we understand that that's what our roots were, and we wish to identify and or understand it more so that we can understand ourselves and our pasts.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of roots, I was told that our great grandmother had some spiritual gifts as well that I don't know if y'all are aware of. Grandmother's mother. I don't know if you want to tap in on that a little bit.
Well, I was just about to say, we always knew when my mother would say something, we had to take heed, because my mother had some kind of insight into what was going to happen to someone or somebody, or some tragedy or something that was going to happen. And so we always paid attention. And if she told us don't go such and such a place because something's going to happen, we heeded her. And she knew when my grandmother was going to die. She knew that. She told us, y'all go say goodbye to your grandmother. Now, I'm not saying, I mean, everybody, when they at a certain point, they tell you go say goodbye. But it's so many things that happened. When my brother got stabbed, she knew something had happened to him. She didn't know what it was, but they went out looking for him because they knew something had happened to him. And these kind of things, older people coming up in my age used to say certain things, and everybody knew to listen to them. Black people,
Mm-hmm.
listen to what those older people said. And we used to sit at Mama Nu's step and listen to them talk about the things that they experienced and the things that they did and what we should be aware of, particularly because we were going through segregation at the time. So I believe in it. I don't believe in voodoo per se, but I believe there are some things that people have insight that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. So fortune tellers. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, Garrett's got to hop off.
Okay.
Take it easy,
Um,
man. Be safe.
Uncle Lewis was trying to get in. If you're still watching, I can let you in now. I just had too many guests and it wouldn't let me add you. But if you want to hop on now that Garrett's gone, you can
And
join.
speaking of what what Lewis said that in fact, at the very end of the movie, it was, to our understanding, who was watching the movie, that they were preparing us for a sequel. Did anybody else get that message?
I got the
When
message that a sequel, that it was left open for a sequel to happen if
right,
he wanted to write one. But at the
right. That's
same
what I'm
time,
saying.
I felt like if the movie had a beginning, a middle, and an end, so if that a sequel was never produced, that the movie could still stand on its own. But at the same time, left it open for the potential of a sequel if that is where the
Exactly.
direction they wanted to go.
Well, that's the same thing I said. They didn't give you any preview of coming attraction. However, the conversation was that this may occur, so it may or may not.
Mm-hmm.
But I would be very happy if they did.
So, Anicia, let's get to um, what was her name? Lang May.
The ass. Okay.
The who? No, the Chinese woman.
The
You
Grace
said
ass.
you
Child.
are. You said that
Uh-huh.
she was very, that you were upset because you said that you posted on Facebook a picture of her character, and the caption above the character was, "If I send you this picture, this means I'm about to f everything up." And you said that you were aggravated by her character and what she did. And I said, and I asked you to tell me why, but then I was like, no, 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 save it for the live chat. That way I'm hearing it for the first time and can be surprised. Because I had a completely different reaction. But go ahead and tell me your reason why.
Well, she basically let the devils in. She let the devil get to her weakness, which was her family, and she basically screwed it up for everybody. I felt like if they would have just, I know it was a movie and the movie needed the action, but in a real life scenario, oh, I would have killed her. I would have been
Okay.
like, baby, not up in here.
See, I
No, you
thought
gonna go sit
you said her family was her weakness, and I was thinking her family was her strength.
That's what I thought
Because
too.
So
And so I was like,
can I?
you have to think this is also 1932. This is before women can have a bank account. This is before, obviously, she probably didn't even have the right to vote either. So I'm thinking you've taken her husband, you saying that if she don't come out, you going after her child. She don't have no other family, so it's kind of like I either fight now or I'm gonna lose everything that's important to
Oh,
me
give me
anyway.
my.
So
but to
that's
me,
so
that was weakness.
I thought that she was the one that was brave enough to do what actually really needed to be done. Because if they waited until sunrise the next night, they were still going to be in danger. So she was only going to be
So
delaying whatever was meant to come for the next 12 hours. So I felt like she was the only one brave enough to make happen what actually really needed to happen.
To me, that wasn't brave. To me, that was her acting out of fear and emotion, like most women do. And unfortunately, it cost the lives of a whole bunch of
Everybody
people
practically.
because she had a very vulnerable moment and she could not control herself to see the bigger picture of trying to keep everybody else alive. And that was my opinion and my take on it. You may call it courage, but look what happened.
Yeah, they killed
But
all
the
of them.
so
vampires, the
first
I
of all,
don't
vampires
understand
I like
why
knew
to
they
her
take a
all
weakness.
perspective.
followed her. I would not. I would have just let her go out there by herself.
Go ahead, T
Not
Don.
But
after she
now
had invited
I
them
like to
I
in.
was saying that the vampires, I believe, knew her weakness. I don't know if they knew everybody else's weakness, but they knew how to get to her.
Right, because they had bitten the
Like,
husband and they knew all of the husband's memories. So they
Right.
knew how to get to
oh
her.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Conrad was trying to say something.
Conrad.
yeah. So I want. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted to say the symbolism of Asians within the black community and how it was she wanted to be a part of the black community when it was convenient for her to profit off of, but the moment trouble strikes she doesn't want any part to be in part of that community anymore. and so kind of relevant to uh, store owners within black communities and how they would like to profit off of black people in their community, but when trouble strikes, they don't want anything to do with us. And so
Mm.
that's why I don't like Grace,
Oh,
because when it's her family in danger, oh, then it's all about, oh, let's protect your daughter, let's protect your husband, but you willing to put everybody else in danger to save your family.
and see, I felt like they were already in danger. Like the situation was already dangerous. I, I could relate to that character because you know how they're, and I guess that's why I feel
Hold
attacked.
on, now. Oh,
I feel
watch it right
attacked. I feel attacked. So two things. You know how obviously with this administration that's going on right now, and they pulling people off the street and sending them off to El Salvador. And I told Ashton, I was like, look, I'm pretty outspoken against this administration. I said, if I go show up missing, I said, don't even come looking for me. I said, because I'm going to be dead. I said, you will not find me. I will not be in the prison, because I remember this show, Oprah Winfrey show, when they said, do not let them take you to a second location. Your time to fight is whenever the battle is on the field. Don't let them take you somewhere where they can do something to you, where they can, and then put other people in danger. Your time to fight. So I told him, don't come looking for me. You will be looking for a dead body, because I am not going to survive the event. I'm not going to allow them to keep me captured. I'm going to fight, and then it's going to end up in me getting killed. So don't come
Okay,
looking for me. So
Burnell,
I
I
So
gotta,
even if
understood
they
her.
told you
I
they was
gotta
only gonna
interject.
capture you for 12 hours and then they'll send you back, you gonna die instead of just
Yeah.
waiting for 12 hours?
Yeah, because I don't trust that. Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
Burnell, I
Don't
gotta
come looking for
interject
me.
for a moment because in your scenario, I get it. That's fine. Okay. But if you and Ashton are in a juke joint surrounded by vampires, and this little Asian woman is saying, come on in, you gonna let her do that and take Ashton and you two? Y'all all going down? I'm sorry. I'm killing her. I'm cracking her neck. Soon as she bite me, I'm snapping her neck. I'm snapping her neck because I can't let her take me and Dorian and everybody else. I'm sorry. So you telling me you gonna just let the Asian girl just come and kill you and Ashton and your husband? That's what
Yeah.
you're telling everybody in the chat right now. You gonna let it happen?
Because to
Yes.
me, she was the weakest link.
He said yes.
I think she was the strongest. I think this is what I think. I
Uh-uh.
think that what needed to happen was just being prolonged. And as the night was proceeding, they were losing their core members. And so it was getting to a point where it's like you can see where this is going, and she's just like, this battle just needs, and it wasn't like she was hiding in the corner. She was the first one to die when it went down, and the fact that she burned alive, that also has symbolism, because a lot of people burn themselves alive, as like monks do that. Asian monks, as a form of protest, will set themselves on fire. So the fact that she burned alive to die, I feel as though is actually symbolism of there was some symbolism in that act as well. But maybe that missed y'all, because see, y'all superficial
Oh,
thinkers.
no, no, no,
Y'all
no.
don't
Watch it. Watch it.
I would
It
tell
ain't miss
you,
us. Mm-mm. No.
dying,
The bitch had to
dying
go.
is noble. Dying
Uh,
out of fear is not a noble event. The survival is the end
Mhm.
goal. And at the end of the day, you asked a question about Sammy. Sammy is the salvation of our culture in that movie, because he gets to carry our culture forward.
Right.
Everybody else who was a part of it, our culture and our history, all died that night.
Nine. That's right.
But he singly survived to tell the story, and then in the after shots you show him as an older gentleman who has achieved and has displayed our culture across the world and shared our gifts to everybody for umpteen years.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me be a little vulnerable here. So, in the aftermath of Katrina, so by the time you get to day 6, you're seeing dead body, and I'm speaking of myself. You're seeing bodies floating. You're seeing uh, the abject sort of denigration of what seems to be a civil society unfolding right in front of you, and decisions have to be made in that moment. And so there was a moment in time where I was thinking, I've either got to find a way out of here or I'm going to die. And I'd rather die figuring out a way to get to you all. I'd rather die figuring out a way to get to you all than to just die here waiting. And so the reason why I understood her is because I was like, she understands that I'd rather die on my own, going out on my own terms, than to die sitting in here waiting with the unknown. So
But
that's
See,
what I
that
again,
took
was
from
the
that character.
difference right there
she had every
because
option to
you were by
outside with them.
yourself.
No, I
You
Exactly.
wasn't
did
by
not have a
myself.
group of people.
Well, I'm just, I think, every situation, needs nuance. And in
Mm-hmm.
your situation, I definitely understand what you're saying. But in this particular situation, I think the characters had the advantage because they knew the weaknesses of their opponents, their enemies. And one was they were in perfect position. They were perfectly safe without having to invite the vampires in. And I think, all those characters for the most part were pretty smart, and all they had to do was wait. And I think Grace Child, I think that was her name, her character's name, Grace, should have known that they were just using, her emotions to control her, and they succeeded. And she should have known that that they had the advantage, and they were going to try to do any and everything to try to get any of them to slip up and let them in. They were literally waiting for them. They could, at any time, the vampires could have left and attacked the town. They wanted Sammy. So at any point they could have went, attacked the town, took her daughter, but they didn't. And she should have known that. So I'm sorry, she would have
I'd have
had to
thrown
go.
I'd have thrown Sammy to him, me.
I would have thrown actually I would have thrown Grace out there, because if you want to go be a hero, go out there and be a hero. Leave us in here. I would have thrown Grace out. I would have cracked her neck first,
Well,
probably, and
she
then took
wanted
her
to
out there
go
and
out there many
be a hero.
times, and they stopped her.
I don't know.
But
I don't
okay,
remember
let's go
that.
to some mothers. We got 4 mothers here. If someone is telling you your husband's gone and they're saying that they're going after your children, you're gonna say, "Well, let me sit in here and wait because maybe they bluffing. Maybe they not gonna go after my children." Is that the way mothers would? They would just leave their children out there?
If they had all of those people out there and I was the only me, my poor children would have to die.
See,
I'm
I
I'm
not
with
gonna
can't
you.
say
go
that,
back.
but
Huh? The
I
reason
will
being is they
say,
were gonna die anyway. Okay, so what I had people with me inside that could possibly help me to get out, but going out there by myself, no, indeed.
But tap into the I think,
motherly instinct.
well, into the emotions of the characters and what it's like to be in that situation
I
where
can't
you
do that.
have. Oh, Lord, Uncle Louis say he's all with you, grandmother. He said, "The hell with them; they'd have to go."
He's a daddy. Daddies don't feel the same way as mothers do.
So grandmother do.
And a lot of times we think logically those have played their own part.
Let me
What?
say this. I hate to say it, but
We
I
already know
understand.
what you're gonna say, Sarita.
I understand.
Bye bye, babies. Huh.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest and say, if I was in that situation, I would have to lean on my faith and my discernment and my spirituality to say that whatever happens, I cannot control, but I know I can control this right here by staying my ass inside and staying
Mm-hmm.
put.
Okay, I understand that, but see, I have the firm belief that that the time that we are on this planet is like I believe that there is something else out there. Like what I have here is not all that I'm gonna ever have. It's just my soul is just transition is just living in this body, and then when this body's done, it's gonna be somewhere else, floating with a butterfly or screwing with a big old whale, whatever it decides to do. So I'm
Wow.
like, I don't my attractiveness to this life isn't as strong as I gotta be alive as long as I'm in it. No matter what the circumstances are, no matter what's going on, I got to be alive. What is life if the people you here to share it with are not here?
So
Burnell, I think
basically,
it's
if
fair.
we in that
I,
situation, we could use you as a sacrifice. That's what you're saying?
Oh, I ain't going out like that.
Burnell, I
Why?
think it's
There's
fair.
no
I
value.
think it's fair to ask the men because in this scene, in this particular scene, Smoke has something to protect, and that's the love of his life, Annie. So I
Right.
know we want to bring the moms in, and y'all want to throw y'all children to the wolves. That's fine. I see where we all playing it now. Okay, cool. Um, but but
Naughty
in this,
Dawn.
but in the movie scene,
Dog going out.
but in the
Well,
movie
you
scene,
know what? I was
Smoke.
thinking, right?
Mhm.
I needed to know what time it was because, listen, we all know they were going to go away at sunrise. So was it 3 o'clock in the morning or 12 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night? We don't know. So you would
Uh,
want to save your children depending on
I,
what time it was?
So you saying your
No.
babies would have
Now,
been sleeping
now
anyway?
I'm
that's
kind of,
crazy.
huh?
You
Would you
saying your
say?
babies would have been sleeping anyway?
No, I'm just saying if I knew how much time
Oh, okay.
before they were going to get out before the sun rose, right? They wouldn't have had time to go get my children.
I know, but yeah, okay, I understand that, but y'all are creating scenarios that are different from the scenario that was in place that Ryan Coogler wrote.
No,
And
no, she's
so
I
no,
think he
she's
should have let
not.
us know what time it was.
No, because look, literally, they were attacked. They were attacked, and within 10 minutes, they went outside and got into the water, and the sun came up and they all burned. So you're talking about between a 15-minute and a 30-minute time frame that you had to survive in order to live another day.
Well,
So
Daddy, you
that
know movies be.
the
Wait, hold on. You know
decision that
movies be
she
taking.
made,
Girl, he not gonna
the
shut up. Hold
decision
on. You
that
know the
she
movie was
made
too.
cost everybody their life except Sammy and Smoke for an additional 30 minutes that she was unable to hold out in my calculation of time. So you
Okay,
wrote
Daddy.
it off.
Hold on. Hold
But
on. Hold on.
in movie time, the action scene only lasted what, 5 minutes? Then
Right.
they went outside and attacked him, and they said the Our Father in the water, and then the sun came up and they all burned. How long it
Well, they
take to
all
say the
burn
Our Father?
when they stab him in the heart.
But that, yeah, like you said, it's movie time because the whole movie was 2 hours 30 minutes, and it happened when the sun came up the day, the day of. Oh no, that was the night before when the sun came up when the guy came and fell from when the vampire came from the I don't know. Don't worry about it.
I
Well,
thought the
either
sun
way,
came up. I thought
Chongling
the
had
sun
to
came up and
die.
they all died when they stabbed him in the heart.
Right. I think that's
Yeah,
when
but
they
I was
died.
yeah, they
That's
died
right.
when they stabbed him in the heart.
Right.
Some of them,
So
not all
he
of
was
them.
still
No,
living
no, 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 they
because they
didn't.
was
They did
walking
not
around
die
during the
when they stabbed
daytime.
him in the heart
no,
because
they wasn't
the ones
walking
that
around.
the ones that were outside actually died because of the sun coming up. But that's
That's right.
why in the end credits you had your boy and his girl walk up to Sonny in the end credits. because they didn't die, and they didn't. They said that
But I
if
thought
you
that
would
they
stab the
left. They
main
weren't in
one,
the
They
sun.
did. They left.
Yeah, they had
they
left.
left, and
They
that's why they
said,
lived
if
because they
y'all
wasn't in the sun.
recall, they said that some of them can die even though they killed the leader. All of them don't die when they kill the leader. So some of them
Right.
got away and some of them didn't. And some of
I
them
didn't hear
burned
that
with the
part.
sun and some of them didn't.
Mm.
Speaking my heels.
Okay.
Damn it! We gotta
Well,
watch this again now.
so okay. I didn't realize that that Grace Meng was gonna be on all y'all's nerves. So that means I'm on all y'all's nerves.
Grace Child.
We just know not to be in no juke joint with you in the middle of the night. So that's all that means. You stay to your
No, we
side.
just gonna send him out
Put
first.
Yep, he
put
gonna be
all
the
the money.
first
Put,
sacrifice. We're
put
gonna be
all the
like, he know
mothers
how to
in
do
the corner.
NSYNC, the Backstreet
We're
Boys.
gonna
Yep.
have
He know
KG
how to do
Cameraman
videography.
protect
He
us.
know how to do
Yep.
all of that.
I
Yeah, I don't want
mean,
We're gonna have KG
with
Cameraman
y'all.
protect us.
there
Yep.
can only be one Martin Luther King. There only can be one leader. Y'all are just giving me follower energy.
Yeah, you're giving us
We about to
dead
end this
energy.
interview right now.
Yeah. We gonna send him out first. Okay.
Yeah, y'all gonna be sending me out too, because I got things to do now. It's almost 9:00. My bedtime.
It's
So
Survivor.
okay.
You get it out.
Yes, I gotta go to the shower. I stink.
Yes.
Well, on that note,
You can smell the
any closing remarks now that I know that there's a
Let's go
bunch of
see it
baby
again.
killers in
Yeah,
here?
I know. Let's go
take
see
it
it
up on let's
again.
go see the game.
Y'all want to go see it in
See it
IMAX
again.
this time?
Yes.
Woo.
We
Is
can
there
do
anything
that.
else that the baby killers want to add?
I will say on the baby note, I thought the way that the movie ended with that scene of the was beautiful. That he was able to see his family again and hold their baby. I thought that was
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, that was.
Oh,
That's
well, you notice? Did you notice that he killed her and stabbed her in the heart? Could any one of y'all do that? I'm sure all of y'all could nod y'all head and say, "Oh
We
yeah."
actually, me and Dorian had that conversation, and
About what?
about who if I told her, I said if she had to stab me before I turned, she said she would. So it's just forget me. She said she would stab me in the heart. So, uh, but no, I actually think that's a very serious question that we should all ask our partners. If we ever in a juke joint in the middle of the night and some vampires attack, are you willing to stab your partner in the chest? I'm sorry, it's gonna be hard for me. It's gonna be real hard. So that might be the situation where I'm just gonna be like, go ahead and take me because I can't do it. But you
Mm.
know,
I have
apparently,
already told my
So
husband
I
if
wouldn't
I'm
want to get turned
anywhere.
into a vampire. I wouldn't want to get turned into a vampire. So stab me.
Rita would do it today.
Yeah, I don't want to live as no vampire. That's why she wanted it. That's why she wanted him to stab her. She said she don't want to turn. I said, let me live my life
That's right.
dead.
Well, I think
No,
we
She
need
had,
to.
I
been
always tell
bitten.
AJ to keep one bullet for me, and he knows the situation that I just don't want to go no more. So I always tell him have one bullet saved.
And this don't even have to be for vampires. She
Right.
could not eat for 5 hours.
See, I'm like you. I I have a couple tablets of potassium, and I didn't think about a bullet because it would have to go in the right place because people can survive gunshots. But I always tell Ashton's like I could move on. I said if something happened to him, I would rot in the bed with him.
Oh,
I
you
couldn't
would,
do it. But he'd be like, if something happened to me, he'd have a new boyfriend by the evening.
That's my daddy. That's my daddy. That's my daddy.
And me, I would jump in the casket and just bury me with him. Just bury me with him.
No, thank you.
I like Ashton's answer. Y'all know I already been married, so I don't have no problem
Are
stabbing the
you
next.
in the light or in the
I
dark?
need to.
Tell Louis I'm in a light.
Okay. Any other
That's
closing
Conrad.
remarks?
No.
Thank you. That's all.
Why
Thank
we
you.
didn't
This was
talk about the love scenes?
Which one?
Anyone?
I
Oh, you talking
want to.
about the one with
I tell you,
Hey,
I love the music. I love the music.
That wasn't
All
the
of the
love scene.
songs was so
yeah, that was
good
some
and
good music.
appropriate. I really love that.
I got the soundtrack on repeat. I'll be sleeping to it.
Are you talking about you which one? You talking about the one with the saltine cracker? Or are you talking about
The saltine cracker, Lord.
the saltine cracker or the backing it up in the voodoo house?
In
Well,
the
I like the Voodoo House.
I
It
like
was
all
very
the movies.
sensual.
I mean
Backing it
all
up.
of the music. But the thing that I loved when he did the dance. That's the thing. You know I would love that. But
Wait,
all
we
the
not
music, I don't think listen to
we
the
talking
words
about the
of
Look,
sex scene.
About that
we're
girl.
talking about sex. We ain't talking about dancing.
no.
I think some of the
That's
sex scenes
a
weren't
evidence.
needed, to be honest.
Girl, anything with Michael B in it is needed. Well, I said, but you know what? What I told Nisa in the movie, I said, why they always gotta have their clothes on?
Oh my goodness.
Well, go
I
watch
think
Creed.
But
I think we could
we
have did
all
without
knew,
the spitting them out scene.
we all
That's
knew, yeah,
that was
what Ryan Coogler liked to do, because it came out in this movie. That's what I told Conrad in the movie.
Oh Lord, what does he like to do? I missed it. Nibble
I
on the
can't say
knob.
that, huh?
Oh,
What?
all right now.
You
He
said
wanted
you
to
all
take
you
it
know
up.
what Michael B. Jordan likes to do.
No,
No, he
Ryan
said Ryan
Coogler.
Cougar.
Oh,
Because he wrote it into the movie. Like, they said it like 7 times. What Sammy was doing to that
saltine
girl.
crackers.
Oh,
Yes,
that's what
send
you
it.
calling it? No.
He
No,
said he
Sammy
wanted
wasn't
to
saltine
taste
crackers.
her.
Saltine crackers.
Where
The
did he
white
get the
girl.
saltine cracker from?
That's the
Because
No, that's the
salty
tasting.
white girl.
because they salty and she was like, give me some time to wash up because I walked here. And he's like, I want to taste you. And I was just like, ugh.
Oh, that's what they call saltine crackers? Yeah,
Well,
you
I
know
know
you
you were like that anyway. It don't matter.
I was just
That
like,
you don't count.
no. Because I'm thinking from a doctor's perspective, I'm like, I know everything that can go wrong. I'm like, so if she's telling you I'm sour, why would you want? She's telling you she's sour. She's telling
Cause he
you,
just wanted to taste it.
and
He
he
just
just
wanted
like
to taste it.
he's like,
Oh my God. Yeah.
He
I
Look what
said,
just
he
wanted
no,
to
no,
did.
no.
taste it.
Mm-mm. I said, no, 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 Sammy. Inexperience. That's what that was. Inexperience.
Yeah, he was a young boy. He
Yeah,
was a young
I didn't like that. I didn't like that.
man.
But apparently it's a thing. So,
I I didn't like it either, Burnell. Cause I
Hey,
sure was like, watch her husband come be a vampire and come join him or something. I
oh,
don't
I
know.
Oh,
wasn't even thinking about
you
the
worry about the
infidelity
husband. She
part.
just worried about the sanitary. She's like,
Well, you know she wasn't
Sour Patch
sour
Kids. Boy, it's stupid.
smoke
Oh,
eating.
Sour Patch. I mean, that's good. I'd take a She warned him that she had walked 10 miles to get to that juke joint. And they didn't have AC and they had been dancing.
that's love or lust at its highest degree.
That's syphilis, chlamydia. That,
oh, now that's
I
wrong.
mean,
Gonorrhea.
that's gangrene.
That's
That's
exact
ulcers in the
gangrene.
mouth.
Gangrenous.
I
Oh,
That's
mean,
That's
when you
that's
that's
think
gender
about it,
All right, it's time to go.
conjunctivitis.
fish.
when you
I'm gonna
think
be
about
talking
it,
to y'all tomorrow.
oh wait,
Okay.
slaves didn't take baths like that,
Exactly. That's why it's so damn nasty.
Yes.
and they
Bye,
still did what
y'all.
they had to do.
Talk to y'all tomorrow. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
One
Have a
Bye.
good
more
evening.
time.
I think we forgetting that a lot of a lot of people was doing it dirty back in those days. We didn't have the
Yeah.
amenities. We didn't have the amenities that we are grateful for today. So there was a lot of saltine cracker uh, intimacy going on back then.
Marlon wouldn't have survived.
I wouldn't have either.
Marlon wouldn't survive.
I wouldn't have made. I just would not. I know with certainty that I was born at the right time. I just know it with certainty because that wouldn't have worked for me. Um, for many reasons, obviously, but
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
but
Like
if
you act
you
like you
didn't
got
know
skin in
what
the
a
game
baby
here.
person was like, you wouldn't know. That would be all you knew was a funky body.
I'm sorry, T Dawn, but would and I hate to ask this, but I'm gonna ask anybody. If you coming from the
No,
cotton
don't be
field,
asking them kind of
you gonna be
questions.
going home playing
You said?
cotton balls with your mate when you
What
know
she
they
said?
just left the cotton field.
Huh? Wait, you gotta repeat that.
If you just coming off a cotton field and you know your man is dirty, you not gonna be like, "Go, baby, take a wash off before we do something." You just gonna straight up drop him.
Well, if that's not what the times back in the day, they probably don't even think about that. They just thinking about getting it on.
I
so you're
think if I
saying that
think I think if they
Cornbread,
was
look
worried about
after.
that,
Oh, go
if they
ahead.
was really worried about that, none of us would be here right now. If they was really worried about
Yeah,
that,
yeah, exactly. I agree, Jeremy.
well,
I
can we
agree.
get off?
Let me tell you. You think Cornbread would have went after he would have got that money? You think he would have went straight home and took a bath? He would have went straight home and got him his stuff. Cornbread was in that field all day. I
Well,
don't think he took no.
there's a reason why I wasn't born in that time. So,
Yeah.
Lord, he said use the cotton that he collected to wipe him down. You know how much cotton I be wasting to wipe on that
Oh,
Oh,
body?
Uncle Lewis is so
okay.
funny.
Well, we need to talk. Well, let's talk about the more sensual one instead of the raunchy one. The one that causes me to be nauseous. The scene that was also without bathing, huh?
Raunchy.
None of them bathed, baby. Even
Yeah.
listen, even Mary and it's not very often in a movie you see people taking baths first. Very seldom. They get home from
Mm.
the restaurant or from their date and then they don't shower.
But don't you
That's right.
think that don't you, that was one
That dude
part?
didn't even
If
look
I
like
had
he
to
had a
critique one part, I'm thinking they haven't seen each other in a while. They've sort of give the 8 years. They give the impression that they've separated, and it didn't seem to be on good terms. They get into an argument and then
shower.
do a quickie afterwards. Did that seem realistic?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
yes, yes. I think
Sorry, Burn. Sorry.
do you
You're the
remember
only one
context?
surprised.
Context matters.
He's frozen.
I'm not. Yeah, you're right.
So
I
And
so
think
that's
so
why
Burn,
I asked him
if
he
you're
gonna find him
referring
another boyfriend.
so Burn, if you're
Sorry.
referring to smoking, if you're referring to smoking Annie, what you have to
Hesitate.
realize is that the intimacy was already there, especially knowing that when he went there that they were about to have a child together.
But he's been gone for 8 years.
he left.
Okay, what about people that leave for the military and gone for a certain amount of time and then come home?
Yeah.
Because he was also a soldier.
Hmm.
I think what Conrad's saying too, what the movie is telling us is that there was some kind of tragedy, which we know now that they had a baby that died prematurely, and he left. He left to to get away from that pain. That don't mean he never. That don't mean he stopped loving Annie. And we see that when he came back, they just jumped right back on it like it was nothing. So he had to go. He had to go do what he had to do to escape that pain of losing a child and reconnected to the woman that he loved. And you can see that throughout the movie. Like Annie was the anchor to everything. Anytime Annie said something, he listened. like you could see that, it wasn't really whatever issues that they had. It wasn't really between them two. It was really the pain of loss that separated them, and that was their kid.
Mm. Okay, but I want to hear from the women. Don't you still feel like it was a story that the scene was still written by a man?
Which scene you talking
Because
What
you
you
know how
mean?
they always talk about how sex scenes written by depiction of intimacy on screen when written by a man looks very different than when it's written by a woman. Was it giving you written by a man energy or giving you written by a woman energy?
Man,
It could be woman or man.
man,
Woman
I say
or
man.
man?
I
I
say woman or man because, like somebody said before, I can't remember if it was Jeremy or Conrad. They had already had the intimacy moment.
Oh
You know,
Lord. Annie was given the root. What does he mean by the root? Well, what made you think it was written by a man?
what you mean?
Because
Oh,
me?
Yeah.
Um, because it seemed some of the scenes seemed like they were more lustful instead of, you know, loving.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought it was both. I thought it was loving and lustful.
Well,
Mm.
So that just made me think it was a man.
Annie made it feel like love. Annie and what's his name? Smoke.
Yeah.
Annie's and Smokes really felt like love. But um
I
I don't
felt like
know.
it was written by a man because a man sort of used doggy style, which was the way they did it. Like that has some connotation in doggy style. Like, yeah, I
well,
don't know,
women
What
like
but
was
you
that
know.
too.
That was
But
Annie's.
some women like
Tell us.
that too,
Go
though.
ahead. Tell us. No, tell us, Burn. Tell us, please. What
Doggy
kind of
style. Hold
does
on.
that
Because
No,
have?
the other
don't
one,
make me say it. Don't make me say it.
the one with the white girl with Mary, she wasn't
Okay,
doggy
I'm
style.
gonna
She was
No,
I'm
like
I'm
gonna
that
be
referring
kind
to
clarify.
of
I'm gonna
I'm referring to
clarify. Okay,
Annie.
I hate. I'm gonna clarify something right quick. That
Go
is the
ahead.
quickest way. That is a quick way to have a quickie and not have to do everything.
And Jeremy
So
agrees.
Do
so
Put your
everything.
that's
finger
not
down.
always the preferable position, but that is a position that we can get in, done, and get out.
Exactly. I don't know, but
Why
I'm
do you
just
think
saying,
he was
yeah.
rushing? Why was
Smoke
he
had
rushing?
something to do. See, Smoke had something to do that day, so they didn't have
Oh, he
time
was
to.
busy.
Yeah, he was busy.
Yeah,
He had time to do all that extra
So
stuff.
yeah, written by a man because a man understands about how to easily get in and get out.
but a woman
Yeah,
understands
because
too.
I'm sure she didn't get hers.
No, she didn't get hers.
No, she
She
didn't.
might have if she had the foreplay before it.
But we didn't see it.
Y'all don't
He
know
just went straight. They didn't get no foreplay because they went straight to just hugging and
They
then
did do
kind of all
foreplay.
the
I'm telling you, the foreplay was the
Conrad saw all the
conversation.
foreplay, but it was on the cutting room floor.
what?
Conrad was on the scene for shooting the foreplay and all that, but it ended up on the cutting room floor. They cut all that
Oh,
shit
Oh,
out.
they left that part out. That's what he's saying?
No, that they did not have. She didn't. She did not get hers. Trust me.
She
Okay.
probably wasn't worried about it though, but you never know. But what
Conrad,
I was
was
saying is
that a
that
when they were doing that scene? Was it a closed set?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. So
Oh,
you didn't get to see it shot. No,
No, no.
I just
you're nasty,
I
but
didn't mean to I didn't mean to shoot like you think I mean it. I meant actually filming.
what you talking about? That went over my head.
No, when I
I don't
said
know
you
Never
didn't
why.
see,
mind. Never mind.
You just got it?
so you didn't get
No,
to, you weren't present when it was filmed or shot.
No, majority of the crew were not present, that didn't need to be around.
Oh,
to
okay.
to see that. Yes.
So you didn't see the prep that went into it.
No.
No.
Okay.
No, I did not see prep. No, I will say there was an intimacy coach or coordinator that was a woman on set.
Oh,
Beautiful.
good. Was she black?
So, yeah,
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right.
But
That's
but
right.
see, I was reading that the intimacy coaches or coordinators are more so to protect the actors from exploitation, not necessarily to guide the procession or to like change the scene as it is as it's been storyboarded.
The scene, this, and I speak from someone who we just had to bring on an intimacy coordinator for our project that we filmed in July. The intimacy coordinator is for both. The scene is the scene. It's about making both actors comfortable in in a way where uh, you got to remember usually actors are two strangers, filming a scene together. They don't know each other like that unless they have some history before then. So you're putting two strangers in a scene where it's very intimate, where it's touchy feely, sometimes kissing, sometimes it gets very intimate. So the intimacy coordinator is there to make both actors feel comfortable, and like you said, not to feel exploited, not for someone to take advantage of the situation, and they're getting their rocks off on the side. But also at the same time, you are human. You are going to get excited. You can't fake that. So it's to make the process easier.
Okay.
But
Conrad's got to go.
Who?
Senior or junior?
Junior, his
yeah,
phone's
my
about to
phone is about to
die.
die.
Okay.
Oh, you can see that?
Well, I don't see nobody else tried to get on. Your mama told me that other people were trying to get on, but nobody's jumped in, so I don't know who they are, and I don't know who those people are.
Hmm.
Okay, well, on that note, thank you, Conrad, for giving us the behind the scenes, the insight, and all the things. We certainly appreciate that. But this was a very good movie. We're
Of
obviously
course.
very, very proud of you, and good job being a part of this project. And we need to go. Obviously, what I've learned from this is we need to go watch it again.
Yeah,
I
I was about to
agree.
say that
Yes.
when we plan on go see it again, we're gonna see it in my IMAX.
I definitely
Yes,
need to see.
I want to see it in IMAX.
Yes.
Okay, let's plan it
After Jazz Fest?
after Jazz Fest. What? Not Saturday or girl?
No,
That
girl, we got a whole nother weekend of Jazz Fest.
in Jazz Fest, Valtrina party. You going to
I
Valtrina?
don't,
Trina?
I don't know. We should
Talking
We
see.
on
about
live. We on live.
after 2 weeks from now.
Oh,
I'm just saying a
Y'all,
weekend when everybody is free to go because y'all know Sarita, she's working Jazz Fest. So I was just trying to be considerate of her.
oh,
y'all want to take
Okay.
a trip to Dallas?
Huh?
Y'all want to take a trip to Dallas and we go see it and the way it was supposed to be seen in 70 millimeter IMAX? That's the closest one is in Dallas.
Really?
We didn't see that here.
We saw the standard 70 millimeter, but we didn't see the IMAX 70 millimeter. So what
Oh.
we saw was close, but it wasn't the ultimate way. The IMAX 70 millimeter, the closest theater that's showing that one is in Dallas.
Hmm.
Which Dallas theater, you know?
I will have to look it up.
Okay. I'll be interested in going. Flights or
With
driving?
the
We could do
IMAX,
a road trip.
a whole wall.
Yeah, it takes you
I'm cool
exactly.
with that.
That's a
Where do they
long
have
way to go to see
yeah,
a
I ain't
movie.
driving.
That's a four. That's the 4D, right?
No, it's IMAX, not 4D.
Oh, okay.
Well,
But
you may
Oh,
be
Jeremy,
able to
well,
find a flight
in the
for like
last four
$4.
in the last 4 minutes before we end this, let's answer this question from one of our viewers. Like and subscribe to my channel. Isn't that what they always say? If you're new here, say hi in the chat and like and subscribe and hit that notification bell So anyway, where do we think Sinners 2 should go? If there is going to be a Sinners 2, where would you like the storyline to go?
Honestly, I'm really not interested in the storyline of today because we can kind of see that. I think what made the movie so intriguing and interesting was the timeline of when it took place and the yeah. I just feel like I'm not really interested in seeing it coming from a present time because we
Hmm.
can already see what's going on presently. I thought it was very interesting to see it from the timeline that it existed in. That's my take
I would
on it.
I want to see a
anyway
prequel.
Sam's story, Sammy's story, because there's all his music is not gonna change. It's only gonna get better and influenced by the actions of this sequence, right? So if the blues, the devil's music, is going to conjure up evil, there's a potential for reoccurring activities. And although we saw the end product where they were all the way, everybody, he was much older, and those two who escaped were still there. There's no there's nothing that says that they haven't been pursuing him in one form or fashion
What are you
up
doing?
through the years, or evil hasn't followed him up through the years, and the promise from one brother to the other is what has helped him survive.
I would say I would like to see a vampire movie or a Sinners movie take place in the vampire mecca, which is New Orleans. Like, I mean, I think that's a no brainer. You're doing a movie in the South already. Why not? I think you can have an origin story of where these vampires come from take place in New Orleans and how they kind of spreading everywhere. We forgetting that New Orleans during that time was one of the biggest port cities, even to this day. But one of the biggest port cities, they bringing in any and everything over here. So there's a story to be told just from there. And if you're going to use the music aspect again, you got jazz now instead of.
Hmm.
So I would like to see that.
Oh, baby, you can ride it.
Well, that's Sinners. This the
Oh,
you know we doing something else with vampires. You already know.
I
Dog
know
So
that's right.
stalkers.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
what y'all doing with vampires?
I don't want.
Hmm.
If this is live, I can't tell it. So
Oh,
this is
okay.
live. Yeah.
No, don't tell it. Don't tell it. But I know you said that this is Sinners, but I had somebody when I was thinking about writing, not thinking about, I'm writing this young adult fiction novel, right? And I saw, what was the show that was recently on Netflix with the black god? All the characters were black and they were British and they were superheroes.
Blood
Supercell.
cells, super cells.
Supercell, yeah. So the first chapter or the first few chapters of this book are very similar to episode one of Supercell, and I was just like, oh my god, there's my idea. It's been done. And then I read that there was an author, and I can't remember his name now to attribute this quote, but he was basically saying that since humans were writing on cave walls, they've been putting their stories even on, on the walls of caves, and every story has been told before. Like, there is no way people have been writing, for 50,000 years, and all of a sudden you think you're going to be the original author of anything. So every story has been told, but no one can ever tell a story the way you would tell it. So what makes it unique is your ability to tell the story. So I just thought that was interesting. So it sort of motivated me to keep writing it, because yeah, it's sort of seen that idea, but no one's going to tell this story the way I told it. So that's why I say about you, Jeremy, you can still write something sinner-esque, sinners adjacent, but nobody's going to tell the story the way Jeremy tells it.
Well, so we are shooting. I'm already developing a team. I already got Conrad on board, and we plan to shoot a vampire movie in the fall. It takes place in New Orleans, which is a unique idea. It's a short film that we're doing. But there's a vampire movie I always wanted to make, and I can talk about this. And if for all your viewers out there, I always say New Orleans has the richest, in my opinion, the richest culture out of all of the states. And New Orleans is also home to the first, in my opinion, the first vampire myth, and that's the Casket Girls. Look it up. I ain't gonna say anymore. I want to develop something about that, and also
And I want to be hired as talent because I
Yeah,
really
I
feel
wanted to
like
say, do we have to audition?
I will
everybody.
audition for the gay
Yeah, you gotta
character that you're going to
audition.
write. And because you're definitely going to write a gay character, because I feel like you have the brain work to do that. And I feel like that character, I could probably play that character. And I would be open to it if you, I mean, I'm open to it.
We got to talk to your agent. We got to see what your price is. You know, we got to make sure all the paperwork is looking right. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So,
We can we
we'll
can we can offline that. I work anywhere between free and free.
Oh
copy
Lordy.
that. Copy
All
that.
right. Well, guys, thanks you all, and this was great. Until then, bye.
Bye.
Peace.